The brain is designed to keep us alive at all costs. But if we add artificial things that affect the body and the brain in ways that it's not really designed for, it can create some dangerous urges that come up. So these urges, in a natural way, are essential for survival. The urge to eat a lot of food very quickly, because if you don't, you could die, type thing. But there are some drugs that affect certain neural pathways that the brain perceives to be essential for our survival, and it'll give you the urge to do it again. Like whatever drug you take generally affects dopamine. This kind of tricks the brain into thinking that this is essential for survival, and the animal brain, the lower brain, creates an urge to do it again. So you live. It's kind of a trick. It's the same with binge eating. If you binge on a lot of food, usually this comes after a period of abstinence from food, dieting or fasting or whatever. The brain is saying you need to eat or you're going to die, creates this urge to eat a lot of food very quickly. This again produces certain factors in the mind, so dopamine, serotonin, whatever. So it has addictive properties as well, because there's pleasure in that. Generally, anything that produces pleasure, the brain will then think it's essential for survival and create an urge to do it again. The urge arises as a sense in the body somewhere. So, depending on what the urge is associated with, it could be sexual, it could be food, it could be drugs. Generally, there's a sensation in the body, and then this sense of wanting to do the thing, a pull towards the thing, a sense of lack if you don't do this thing, can be anxiety. The urge can create thoughts in our minds. It somehow does hijack our conscious being, our conscious thoughts, and then we think those thoughts are what we really want, tricks us, and then we go and do the thing that we don't actually want to do, but we had the urge to do the unhealthy thing. So, in order to fix any addiction or any unwanted behavior that we are engaging in unwillingly or willingly, but we don't want to do it, for example, whatever it is, I know you willingly do it, but you do it just to satisfy the urge because they're uncomfortable, they're strong, they produce anxiety, you think they're real, you think it's necessary, whatever it is that convinces you, you do the thing, right? You don't want to do it, but the urge says you got to do it, so to resolve this sense, you do it. And it's oversimplistic. Obviously, we take drugs, we binge eat, we eat unhealthy foods, we use porn, whatever it is, there is pleasure in it, and we want to do it because of there could be other reasons to ignore things, to push down whatever emotions, whatever it is you want to avoid. But the core of it, if we're trying to stop doing the thing, is to deal with these urges primarily. And there's a lot of things that don't work. So one of the main things that I don't believe work is the urge surfing. I've heard come up before, and I think what this is saying is that as the urge comes up, you just sort of ride with it. You let it go through what it needs to do, and you just sort of experience the urge as it goes. But there's kind of a sense of they're getting wrapped up in it. There's a lot of advice that says to argue with it or yell at it or be aggressive towards it. The thing that seems to work the best in my experience is mindfulness. And I know that's an overused term these days, but it is the closest thing I believe that can apply to this. And in my opinion, the other term for mindfulness is love, because at its most fundamental level, love is awareness, or is to allow things to arrest in the awareness that you are, without wanting to change them, without wanting to get involved with them. It's just a resting sense of consciousness, and this is love. But as the urge comes up, recognize where it is in the body. Let's say it's an urge to take a drug. It might come up in the stomach, this sense of, I want to take this drug. And then as that comes up, you will probably have thoughts as well. So thoughts that say whatever about taking it, getting it. And you'll have pictures in your mind too of getting it, of what it will like to have it, of what you will be doing when you have it or to get it. So the quicker you can be aware of this, the easier it is to fix. If you keep going on the track of listening to the urge, getting involved in it, and having conversations with it, and really struggling, you get too far down the rabbit hole, and then it just becomes inevitable. So one of the most beginner things to do is to really work hard at putting a lot of intention or effort into becoming aware of them as they come up. This doesn't mean trying. You don't have to try to bring them up. You don't have to go to things where they come up where intentionally, although I have done this in the past and it does work. But this is for a bit later on. At the start, it's just about watching for them and not getting caught up in them. If you have an urge and then you have thoughts about the thing, food, alcohol, drugs, porn, whatever it is, and you find yourself conversing with it, you find yourself getting emotional and wrapped up in the whole thing. You're stressing out and you're battling. It's a struggle, and you really want to do it, but it's already gone too far. You've allowed the thing to take over. You haven't been mindful, and it's just become you, right? The key here is that we're not letting it take us over. We're not letting it become us. We are consciousness. And if we forget that, then we can allow things to take us over, and then we don't sit back. We don't disidentify with thoughts and feelings. We just become them. There's no space. And this is the key word here, is space. So as the sensation and the thoughts come up, create space. And I know it's a vague term, right? And I'm going to try to give some specific ways to do that. There are a few. Some people say that you sit outside of yourself. Pretend that you're looking from outside within. You're not really there. You're just behind you looking at the thoughts and the sensations. The other way that works for me is to, when the sensations and the thoughts come up, I try to basically drown them in as much consciousness as I can. I see them and I feel them, and I create this air around them, being aware of them, just holding them in this conscious awareness. And they just hold there still. You're not allowing them to take over or get bigger or change. You are the consciousness, which is the ultimate strength of what it means to be human. You are love. And this loving energy can surround anything. And whatever it is more powerful than it. You are more powerful than any urge, than any thought. The only thing that makes you think you're not is when you start to allow them to take you over. So surround them in your conscious love in as much as you can. Just hold them there. You're not trying to push them away. You're not trying to ignore them. You're not trying to be distracted, although that may happen and it's not a bad thing. We're just watching them from a detached place full of consciousness. Just holding them there, breathing, relaxed. They're not affecting us because we cannot be affected. We are the most solid, the most pervasive, the most invisible, the most softened, and the most hardened thing that there is. which is consciousness. It's malleable, it's infinite. It cannot be affected by anything. And if you hold your sensations and thoughts from this place, you can pretend that you're watching an animal, which in some ways you obviously are, or you're watching a beast, or you're watching something that's not you, something that's not your consciousness come up. And just watch it with detachment. It doesn't have to affect you. You don't have to do anything about it. All you need to do is bathe it in consciousness and just watch. Just hold it there, sitting, breathing, relaxing, watching, bathing. And what you'll find is that they just won't take you over. This will become your new practice, and it will become quite enjoyable. It's a challenge, and when you meet the challenge, and what you'll find is the first few will disappear pretty quickly. Sometimes you might get them for an hour. A lot of the time you just distract yourself. You're doing it, and then suddenly something else becomes more important, and you do that, and you forget you had an urge. The urge goes away. About a month of this, the urges are pretty much done for. They come back every now and then, but they don't make sense. They get weaker and weaker. It's really the first 30 days where this is really important. The most important thing is to catch it early. So that's why working on just watching for them and catching them as quickly as you can. Trying to figure out on your own, what is an urge? When do they come up? Sometimes we think it's not an urge, but it is. It's especially difficult with food, where we think we're having an urge to binge, but we're actually having an urge because we're hungry. But they are distinctly different. You'll notice by the pictures that your mind gives you. It's much easier with drugs in that sense that you can just abstain, but you can't abstain from food. This, I believe, for people who have an addictive personality, will free you up so you can actually use your energy in places that will serve you. Maybe you want to get rich. Maybe you want to start a business, a hobby, design, create, express. Once your urges are dealt with to do these things, your energy is free. And we have a lot of it, us with the addictive personalities. A lot of energy that can be focused to a place of success, or it can be scattered into a place of destruction. Thanks, guys.